Hey, it's the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Welcome to this weekend episode of The Zone. As you know, we're getting ready for the big game today between Prairie View and the Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils. Prairie View will have to find their ways back into the winner's lane as they'll try to stop a two-game skid against Mississippi Valley State. Kickoff will be at 6 p.m. Central Time. You can join us live on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Two ways that you can join in with us. You can go to the website, obnradio.com, or you can dial 857-777-0000. Now, when you go to the website, obnradio.com, you click on the Listen Live link, and you'll be able to join in that way. And once everything is set, locked, loaded, and ready to go, you can enjoy Mr. Andre Davis and Philip Prince as they give you the play-by-play breakdown of today's contest. Today, we're going to be hearing from the Queen of the Courts, Miss Tamika Newman, as she continues to break down the Southwestern Athletic Volleyball Conference. So, we'll strap up and get ready for today's episode of The Zone right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Hello and welcome to today's show. You are listening to the Above the Net SWAC Volleyball News segment. I'm your host, Tamika Newman, volleyball analyst, two-time SWAC graduate, a bachelor's from Prairie View A&M, and a master's in business from Texas Southern. Your 2006 SWAC Volleyball Player of the Year. To make a long story short, hashtag I am SWAC. This segment of Dr. Mike Prince's already popular show that discusses all things SWAC intends to highlight elite performances by teams and individuals, interview current and former players and coaches in order to give youth coaches, parents, and players an inside look into a SWAC volleyball program. Let's jump right into the show. Today's guest is Megan Coleman. She is a graduate of Prairie View A&M and was also a member of the volleyball team. She's currently an assistant coach at Morgan State University. Coach, we are grateful you made time in your busy schedule to join us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me, if anything.
Yes, we're happy to have you and get some insight for you. You've had quite the journey. I know that coaches, players, parents, and coaches alike can get something from your journey. So let's start. Tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself.
So for me, like you mentioned, I played at Prairie View A&M University. I have a mechanical engineering degree. I graduated with a mechanical engineering degree, but my first job was in coaching. It started at Western Texas College. Then it moved on to Arkansas Monticello as a grad assistant. And then I was a head coach at Lamar Community College, that's in Colorado. And then I became a assistant at West Alabama. Then I was a head coach at Cheney University, and like you just recently said, now I'm assistant at Morgan State University. For me, my dream was always, and I mean always, to pretty much be back in HBCUs. From just graduating it's in me. I love HBCUs, and that was my dream, to be a coach at a HBCU.
All right, Megan, great story. You've been on both sides of the country, down south, a little east, a little bit of middle America. So let's back up. You said you got your degree in mechanical engineering. For all those student athletes that want to do engineering, and I've met so many volleyball girls that want to do it, how do you manage something as rigorous as engineering with being a student athlete?
One, like they say, when they tell you it's not easy, it is true. It is not easy. You will have to give up something. And most of like that is a social life at that point. But you could say your social life is with the students in your degree. I think I had great times with the people that I met outside of athletics. Honestly, the people who were my classmates in engineering, that was my social life. So sometimes you have to give up those parties on Thursdays and Fridays with your teammates or other people outside outside of your major. But, I mean, it's always a glorious award at the end. But, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of sleepless nights. I won't sugarcoat that at all. I remember there's times I just took a nap and I'm up to 3 to 5 o'clock in the morning. Is that very hard for an athlete? Yes. That's why it's always it's always told to athletes that it is a journey and it's very rigorous. So you got to be prepared for it, and that it can be very strenuous for athletes. So it's something that you have to already have a mindset of doing. You have to be very good with time management. You have to very good with time management, and you also kind of have to plan it out of how that looks like. I mean, bi-weekly. I was fortunate to be done with school and finish up my end of my senior year after. I was fortunate enough to be done with volleyball and finish my senior year of engineering after volleyball was over. So it wasn't that much of a headache for me, but I understand if that's what I couldn't imagine still playing my senior year and playing volleyball at the same time.
Yeah, good point. Good point. So you got a degree in mechanical engineering, but you went into coaching. How does that work? What did you know you wanted to be a coach? How did you decide, hey, I want to go into coaching?
So for me, I grew up playing sports. That's all I did. All I knew was play. In order to play sports, you got to get good grades. So it would never really kind of cross my mind of what I exactly wanted to do. I knew I had an interest in cars. I actually wanted to be a mechanic, but my mom was like, that is not a 4-year degree. So she was like, maybe mechanical engineering might interest you. So that's why I started with mechanical engineering. As I was doing it, there are parts about what I liked about engineering, but I didn't see a future in it yet. Until one of my professors, I kind of asked him, like, kind of how do I maneuver through this? Like, what is the next step for me? And then then he said, like, if money wasn't involved, what would you choose? And I was like, volleyball. And he was like, there you go. So for me, I always was in the gym with volleyball. I always wanted to volunteer with volleyball. I wanted to do anything and everything with the volleyball team when I completed my 4 years of eligibility. So that's what made me decide that volleyball and coaching is what I wanted to do. My dream was to give girls that you can have it all. Like, I want you to have the HBCU experience. I want you to be able to be an athlete. I want you to be able to be a student. And I want you to be a well-rounded woman. So I wanted to be that coach that I believe that you can have it all. So I wanted to provide that in my coaching.
That's really awesome. I love that. Going back a little bit, you talked about your professor. Kudos to him. Asked you, what would you do if you weren't worried about money, or it didn't matter what it paid? And that's a great place to start. That's a great way to figure out what you're truly passionate about, because everybody's always pressured to pick a degree that's going to result in a job that pays a lot of money. But our age group, you're a little bit younger than me, but we have seen the result of people picking jobs because they thought they paid a lot of money. They're incredibly unhappy, and some of those people are on their second degree. On their second career, because the first one they chose, they weren't very passionate about it. So youngsters that are listening, that is great advice on deciding what exactly you want to do. Awesome. So let's go to you on the playing side. Coaches always tell athletes that sports teaches life. I believe that coaches teach life through sports. What is the lesson you learned in college as an athlete that you still apply to your life today?
What I learned is that, I know it's cliche to say, but it is teamwork, honestly. It's learning to deal with individuals and how can you find a middleman? How can you find like an even keel in a situation, or how can you work with other people with different mindsets? You will deal with that in life. And I feel like that's in life. I feel like that's in the workplace, whatever. So as an athlete, learning another teammate and how do you accomplish a goal is big. I think that is the one thing that no matter what job field I'm in or chose or anywhere in life, that is something that you always will deal with in my eyes. So that's learning how to deal with someone else with maybe a different ideology, than you, a different religion, a different background, a different upbringing. How do you all get them to still want to work and provide excellent work or achieve a common goal or have at least understanding?
Yeah, you're right. I don't care if you want to go volunteer on a Saturday morning at the food bank. You're going to work in a team, and for those few hours, you got to figure out how to deal with different personalities, different age groups, demographics. You're correct. We use that every single day, even in your own home, working together as a family unit. You can rely back on those experiences as working that you remember from working in a team. I love that, and I couldn't agree more. Talk about when you were in high school, what you know about the SWAC or certain schools in the SWAC. And you are from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so let's put that out there. But what did you know about the SWAC?
So I was privy to the point that my family is SWAC. My family is Prairie View A&M University down from head to toe. From my mom, my dad, my mom's sister, brother, my sister, my cousins, my grandfather, pretty much everyone to Prairie View. So it was no way that I would not know what SWAC was at all. Like, so from just that, and then honestly, the sad part is I could say I was a little bit oblivious of the other schools in SWAC due to everybody went to PV, so it's kind of like it was just PV only, like there's nothing else. I didn't really know too much of who was in SWAC except for, your TSU, of course, and your Grambling and your Southern. But other than that, of like understanding like Cheney, like I found out that Cheney University in Pennsylvania is the first HBCU. I was oblivious and thought PV was one of the first. And even that, still, we're not technically the first in Texas. So, but yeah, SWAC, I knew everything from my parents. So I have to give them the reason of why I am SWAC, will be SWAC, and always will represent SWAC.
Yeah, hashtag I am SWAC. You definitely are SWAC. You made a good point there. I was big into college sports. I knew about Prairie View. I knew about Texas Southern being a local. I knew about Southern. I knew about Grambling because they played the Bayou Classic on TV. We watched that every year around the holidays. But Alabama A&M, Alabama State, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, I had never heard of those schools. And I felt so embarrassed and ashamed that I didn't. And when we graduated from college, I wanted to make it my business to expose students, especially because I was in education, expose them to the other HBCUs because there are tons all over the country. That's awesome. So talk about you and I. Well, we can pause here and talk about how we know each other. I graduated from Prairie View probably 4 or 5 years before Megan. I believe I met her at an alumni event, and we just chatted it up, and I was a high school coach here, and Megan was going to go into coaching, and I think I might have said something like, let me know if you ever need something, hit me up if you have a question, and I don't remember how much time passed, but you eventually did reach out and kind of ask me for some advice or a recommendation about something. And we've just been the best of friends ever since then. So from that, I want to ask 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, talk about the importance of getting a mentor. I think our initial relationship was that, just because I'm a little bit older and already had been working professionally, was that initially of a mentor and mentee, and then it progressed into a friendship. How important is it to have a mentor? How do you go about getting a mentor? What are some keys to getting a mentor, and why is it important?
So one, I guess I'm on 2 sides of that. I feel like a mentor can be anybody. But yes, it's great to have someone, a mentor in your field, because they can give you another perspective of it. But I don't think we have to stop with your mentor has to be in the field of work of you do. Like, I feel like I have not only just mentors with you, but mentors with coaches outside of volleyball. So, and then I have mentors outside of sports. And I think important is to, because I'm always big on of knowledge. Whether it is a right or whether whether I believe in their wisdom or their knowledge or their opinion, it's always good to just have a different side of something and looking at it and kind of really painting a picture I didn't see it from that point of view. So where do I navigate with that? So I think what's important for it is, one, do I think it's important to have a mentor? Yes. Do I think it's important to have a mentor in different facets? So whether they're in your field, whether they're a male or a female, or whether they're older or younger, yes, I think that all matters. But I also think, too, a great mentor or having a good mentor, if you hopefully find that good one, is the one who kind of holds you accountable, the one who makes you stick to your goals, the ones who remind you of what was your purpose is, what is your plan, and kind of be around that journey to see that if you're evolving to it. And I think you need, if anything, that is the type of mentor you need to kind of search out for. And I honestly can say that I had that in you. You always was there to hold me accountable. You always were there to make sure, like, hey, what does this journey look like for you? Where are we going in this journey? And it's constantly those conversations that gets me to thinking, like, again, so what is my journey? What is I'm trying to accomplish? No, you could have did that better. Or, hey, these are the experience of what I did. So I can say, I remember one of my friends had, one of a teammate of mine in high school said, and it stuck with me to this day, and I'm always saying it says, a fool learns from their own mistakes, a wise person learns from others. And I feel like that's what a mentor is. I feel like that's what a great friend is. It's someone I learn from others. So I won't be in those same situations, or I will know how to navigate if that situation happened to me.
Yeah, I love all of that. A mentor holds you accountable, and they're holding you accountable not to a standard they set, to a standard that you set for yourself. You said, hey, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to do it. These are my non-negotiables. So a great mentor and a friend, because we established that a mentor becomes a friend, holds you accountable to what you said you wanted to do and what you said you would not tolerate. So I love that, and mentorship is very important. Speaking of having mentors in different fields and in different sports, some of my mentors are men, mostly because there weren't a lot of black women in the sport of volleyball, which is why I took it very personal with being a mentor after I had coached for some years. Are men, college football coaches, high school football coaches, college basketball coaches, high school basketball coaches, track coaches, golf coaches. My favorite conversations are talking to golf coaches about the mental game. Basketball coaches are great with leadership and building culture. So I like to learn from everybody. Some of the women that are in leadership in different fields are mentors to me as well. So, yeah, a variation is great. Let's talk about the SWAC. I'm going to pause there and review the SWAC standings now and who finished, how they finished last season. And then we're going to talk a little bit about SWAC volleyball, because I know that you were a part of it and you still follow it closely. So last season, we know FAMU and Alabama State tied for first in the conference. FAMU eventually won and represented the SWAC in the NCAA tournament. Grambling had a crazy, amazing year, finishing third. They had not finished third in several years. And then Jackson State, which is usually top two, finished fourth. This year, the standings so far, Prairie View A&M has flipped the conference on its head. We certainly know, because we're alum, what it is capable of. It's 4-0. Prairie View's 4-0. They had 4 or 5 preseason wins over Division I non-HBCU, non-SWAC opponents. Their wins have come over their other partners on the West, UAPB, Grambling, Southern, and Alcorn. Then in second is Alabama State, previously dominated the SWAC before FAMU showed up. Alabama State is 3-0. Speaking of FAMU, they defeated FAMU, Bethune, and Alabama State. And then our conference's last year's winner is in third. FAMU has beaten A&M, Valley, Jackson, and lost to Alabama State. So talk about who dominated the SWAC during your years of play. Talk about the change in guard this year.
So for me, during my time, it was actually Alabama A&M. And the only reason why I know, it's a running joke in my family, I actually was recruited to go to Alabama A&M first before Prairie View. And my mama was like, if you went to Alabama, you would have had all 4 rings. They won all 4 years that I played. So, again, that was just kind of part of it. It was being a little bit oblivious of not knowing that side of of the SWAC. I only knew, again, like we said, the Grambling, the Southern, the Prairie and TSU. I didn't know too much about Alabama State, A&M, or how they placed or how they volleyball function was. I just knew I was a Texas girl saying I'm not going to Alabama. That's all I remember mostly from that. And also, too, my parents played a part because my dad was like, if you're going to go to a SWAC school, you're going to go to Prairie View. So blame him too. But I would say just the involvement or the evolution of SWAC is the bad and good side of it is due to the fact of police brutality and just some of the stuff that we see when it comes to
the George Floyd,
Black
Lives Matter movement.
Yes, all of those movements has pushed forward of HBCUs more. So you're seeing the competition change, and it's not on just one side. Honestly, I think this year is going to be a very good testament of, I apologize, which one is Alabama A&M? Is it in the East or the West? I keep getting the confused.
Alabama A&M and Alabama State are both on the East.
So, yes, the East. So this year I think will be a good testament of, is the East truly your placeholder or your top-tier teams in volleyball for SWAC, or will it be a little switch and change from the new coaches that came in? So I haven't known too much of when it comes to play. I'm not able to see all their games, but I just know the new coaches that has come in, and I know some of the ones who have already have roots in the ground. So it's going to be a good testament of good and I won't say I don't want to say new and old. That's kind of bad, but I would say maybe new in wisdom, or new in maybe new in the ones who have roots already, and see how that looks like in the SWAC.
Yeah, I'm excited. This weekend is going to be a big weekend. It's the first cluster weekend, and we're going to get a chance to see the East and the West play. So coming down to Houston, Prairie View, Southern, and TSU, I believe, are going to play. Bethune-Cookman, Alabama State, and FAMU. We're really going to see, and I believe that it's solid and it's going to stick if Prairie View is who we think they are based on their early showing in the preseason. And big ups to Prairie View. Cherie Lindsay is an alum just like us, so we all have a sort of sorority in that way. That PV. I forget what we used to joke and call it. Vis-a-vis. We would joke, but big ups to Cherie coming home to Prairie View to sort of rebuild a legacy that has been there. She was coached by Coach Alicia Pete, and then the former coach, Coach Tacho Richard. So she's in that Coach Pete's coaching tree as well. Same with Megan and myself, who both had our stints at Prairie View. I was 2 years an assistant. Megan, you were a grad assistant or a student assistant?
You a student assistant.
Awesome. Yes. So big ups to Cherie, who's turned the program around. But this weekend is going to tell the story. It's going to tell the story. I hope to be there. Really want to see how Prairie View matches up with FAMU and Alabama State, and that's going to really tell the story. I think they're going to do well. I think that Houston fans are going to see quality volleyball. Quality volleyball. The pace and the talent and the skill and the fundamentals of those top schools in the SWAC can be compared to any conference around the country at that mid-major level. So, Megan, let's go a little bit into coaching because coaches tune in. You've been an assistant and you've been a head coach. What qualities make a great assistant coach?
So what qualities would make a great assistant coach is you understanding, like I take actually from my recent women's basketball coach, you are assisting. You're assisting. You're trying to provide, you're trying to alleviate as much of the work duties of a head coach. But also remember, too, you're still a coach as well. So you are, if anything, what integrate assisting is, one, abiding by what the head coach vision is for the program, because the girls are going to test you on it. If anything, the girls are going to look for you first for guidance through the journey of their volleyball program. So when there's times they questioning or wondering where they sit at, they come to you first before they come to the head coach. So if anything, a great assistant is remembering those values and remembering what the program is about and kind of sticking to that, and also providing it for the girls when they're looking for advice to deal with a situation. So I think a great assistant is that. I also think a great assistant needs to understand too of their type of coaching or what they see or what their values are. I think sometimes too, as assistant coaches, we want to have the job so bad that we didn't look like, does it align with me? I'm very good of like, there's things of not a good fit, and it doesn't make that person, the head coach, bad or you bad. It just means that you're not a good fit. We have so many colleges and universities in just the United States that you can find the same philosophy or good fit. Two, I remember one person told me when I was becoming an assistant, they don't want a yes person. No, you want somebody who challenges you, but who also is still in line with your program. So maybe give you a different thinking of something, but not to the point where you're like butting heads every single day. But they definitely don't want a yes person, because at the end of the day, you grow when you have different ideas of how to run a program, how to teach the girls, how to make them better as a whole as a student. So as an assistant coach, you want to make sure that you know your values. Your values, you kind of have a different way of thinking from your head coach, and also standing on that too. But also remember too, at the end of the day, the head coach got to make the decisions for that. And then just doing what you can to assist the program in any type of way.
I agree. I've hired probably a dozen assistant coaches. I've been an assistant coach myself. The best coaches I've had weren't yes men. They were very assertive. They were paying attention. They had opinions. They were problem solvers. I love a problem solver. With the limited time that we have to make decisions, I loved assistant coaches who came to me with, this is what I'm seeing, and this is how we can fix it. This is how we can remedy this problem, and I love that. Being in alignment with your head coach and their philosophy. It's nothing worse than picking someone that ultimately doesn't agree with what you think are keys to running a successful program, building culture, holding kids accountable, and getting a team better. It's always a bad relationship when those things don't align. So you need to be aligned in that way, but bringing your own flavor is important too. Now that I've been coaching almost 15 years, I love bringing in a young coach who has similar philosophy to mine, but brings a different edge. I can appreciate that she usually can relate more to the kids, doesn't intimidate me at all if kids go to her first. I love that, because the longer you're in this business, the more out of touch you are with the youth. There are rappers and singers and dancers and memes and hashtags and emojis I have no idea about. But I love getting someone who's still a little relevant in that way, as long as they align with my philosophies and hold student athletes accountable. So let's talk about you're over in the MEAC. You've been in the SWAC. You're in a completely different part of the country. Talk about some differences in MEAC play and SWAC play and the kinds of athletes that the two get. Maybe they get the same ones, I'm not sure, but talk about some of those differences.
So one, I'm going to start with players. I will know for sure it is more international based here in the MEAC than it is in the SWAC. Can't answer that. I can't answer that question. I know I found out like the former head coach at Delaware State lived in Hawaii, and he lives in Puerto Rico as well. So I know most of his team was of Puerto Rican players, and then I know Coppin State. Hopefully I said that right. I have a tendency to say their school wrong, and I don't know why. But they're international, both of them. Their assistant coaches are international based, so you see a lot of that. Honestly, if you brought back FAMU there, FAMU was was the epitome of international players. So I will say that I will start with that for sure when it comes to the playing of what's different from MEAC and SWAC of that. Also, the biggest key when it comes to difference between MEAC and SWAC is gender. MEAC has more men coaches than SWAC does. Honestly, your first men coach, I might be wrong, but I know there were maybe one or two men coaches before in SWAC, but now it's only one I can believe, if I'm right, in SWAC, and that's your FAMU coach. Other than that, we have three, I believe, three compared to the five. I could be wrong if I'm right. So I know Howard is men, Coppin is men, North Carolina Central was a man before then, Delaware State as well, and it still is. So that was four of those, and then you had your other three. But now it's kind of switching. It's more women now for MEAC. But at a time, it was MEAC was men, mostly men coaches, and SWAC was mostly women coaches.
That's a good point. Yeah, we've been slow to having men volleyball coaches. I can't say that I disagree with that. I think women should coach women's sports. I think that men have a few more options of sports they can coach. If women can't cross over mostly into football, and we see a few cases of that, I just truly believe that there's fine having a male on the staff to have both perspectives, but that women should lead women, because you can't be what you can't see. And if we're building future women leaders for tomorrow, then they need to be led by women. That's a great observation. So, Megan, you look at a lot of recruiting videos, a lot of highlight videos. Talk about some things that should be in a highlight video and some things that should not be in a highlight video.
So one that should not be in a highlight video is the stop and the start. Where you stop, maybe you could circle it one time, maybe you can point at the person who it is maybe one time, but after that, the stop and the start of when she's about to approach, when she's coming down, when she's playing defense, all of that is not needed. We want to see the fluidity of the game, and it's taking that away when you do that. Two, I'm very big on if you play multiple positions, have multiple film of those multiple positions. So if you're a setter and and let's just say opposite, you have all clips of you setting, then you have all clips of you hitting. And if you want to put that all into one video, that's fine. And just be detailed of like, hey, all my setting routes are from time of 0 to 2 minutes, and from 2 minutes to 5 minutes is my hitting of opposite. Totally okay. Make sure you put that in the title, too, that you are a setter in opposites. I see mostly people do it. The only problem is you put that and then you don't have no video of the second position that you are. I think it is great to put your vertical in there. And honestly, at this point, I will say if you're putting your vertical on there, it needs to show in film. I've seen a lot, too, where people say, I touched 10-3, but I'm not seeing that in film. So you want to kind of, if you could, see how much you're touching during the play, not just what you can just touch off court. You can be detailed. I think being detailed or what you put in your so be detailed in, yes, put your academics, put your classification, put what club team you are, put where you're from, put what you like about the school that you're interested in. So, yes, put those details in it. You can go into more details about who you are as well. I think I heard from other coaches, some care about that, some don't. So it's a lottery ticket with that, a hit and miss, but whatever makes you comfortable in your emails, you put it of that. But you also you always need to put the necessary stuff of that. So yes, so for me, when it comes to mail, I am reading pretty much a lot of them. So I'm not probably going to read all about you. More than likely, if I'm interested in you, I'll like to find that out over the phone or video chat anyway. So, but hey, it is totally great to hear some little funky story of like, yeah, well, or my biggest thing I like to hear is like, hey, congratulations on your win of it. Or, hey, that was a good try year. I like your tenacity. Or one person I remember to this day that a recruit, it was like, they caught my eye, was like, hey, I love your bench environment. And I was like, And the fact that you saw that, it caught my eye, like I want to learn this girl, because you noticed something that I wanted to applaud our girls about, that, hey, there's somebody looking at our bench environment and noticing that they want to be a part of that. So, yeah, so it's a chance to you.
That's awesome. That was really hooked up by that player, and that's somebody that comes probably from a great culture or a great parents, and she's paying attention to that stuff. She's really serious about her recruiting journey. She's making sure this is a place I want to go play at. I can see their benches excited. That was a really, really great observation by that kid. I would have been totally impressed.
Yes. And again, that caught my eye. Even if whether or not she was a good fit or not, it definitely made me want to open and see who this girl is and who this player is, and if it is opportunity for her to be on our team. So, yeah, sometimes those details, because like you said, I like what you just said, those details matter. Like, I think we get so focused on the school and the scholarship part that you forget the big things. This is 4 years. Hopefully it can be 4 years. Take time to understand, is this the culture you want to be in? Is that the bench environment you want to be in? Is this the type of coaching that you want to be in? So mine is, yes, send out those emails to everybody, but also take the time of knowing what type of questions you want to ask these coaches when you get the chance to, so you know whether or not that this is going to be a good fit for you or not. Don't just start, like, I guess when I can think about my career, don't just go chase money, because money can make you unhappy. So it's like, don't go just chase a scholarship, because in the day, it might make you unhappy to the point now you want to transfer, or now it might make you make you lose the love of volleyball. So,
Megan, me and you had this conversation a ton and I'm going to get to something later, the transfer portal, but we've talked about there are some programs that are notorious for bad, toxic culture. And we're seeing kids go to those programs because they want the full scholarships, they want to play so bad, want to play Division I, and we're all looking at each other like, this is pretty well known. A few Google searches, a few inboxes to some people on Twitter, or going to some games, or observing players, observing the rotating of assistants and the revolving door of head coaches, if the school is toxic, not just the program, the school. So there's some things that you certainly can find out in your journey that will keep you from making the mistake and ultimately ending up in the transfer portal. So let's go to the transfer portal. I was listening to Deion Sanders talked about he felt bad for high school students, and we both know this because Division I schools aren't recruiting high school players anymore. And it's because you can go get a kid who has already made the adjustment to college, already got some college reps. You kind of can see their weaknesses against college opponents. It's just, you just got better odds going ahead and getting a kid that have already been on a college campus. So talk a little bit about the transfer portal. Do you think it has helped athletics, HBCU specifically? Do you think it has hurt? Just talk about the portal.
So do I think it has helped HBCUs? Yes, in the right way. I mean, yes, 50-50. One, we didn't get a portal player this year, so unfortunately I can't speak off of how it affects our program, but I have an idea of what I think it might have happened for others. So in my mind, for HBCUs, you might get the kid that never thought of an HBCU. That's why I think that might be big for at least for an HBC situation. Or maybe the kid that was actually very good, but like you said, a toxic environment that would have never, ever, again, put HBCUs as a top on a list, and now you might have a chance to get them due to they want to be in a culture of their own, a culture that's the same like them, or just hopefully they heard about you and that it's a great environment and they want to finish up their last years there. So that's one part. The bad side is one with HBCUs, unfortunately, if you're leaving out one, sometimes it gets hard for you to find, if you're trying to leave out of an HBCU, I think I have seen it harder for them to leave out of an HBCU and find another school. Usually that means D2 or you're going to be finding another HBCU. I could be totally wrong. This is just going off of speculation. This is no information whatsoever if that is true or not. But also, so just anybody in the portal. The problem is the misconception of that. Yes, you have the option of getting the portal, but you do not have the option of hopefully finding a scholarship or a better school than what you was at. You might, one, end up in the same situation. Two, you might not end up with no scholarships. Or three, you might end up at a school that you're just taking it due to the fact that somebody's roster is already full and I only have one extra scholarship and I gave it away for somebody else. So that is the only issue too. So the portal ain't all, like they said, it's not always glittering gold because you just hopped into it. So it has its pros and its cons. Some people are lucked up and be like, hey, they already had their options waiting, or they know where to go later. Some people, it's like it's a Russian roulette, and you hoping that I don't know, somebody else left and you able to take their scholarship, or that they scholarship just open up somehow, some way, and now you're able to go. But, yeah, so when it comes to the HBCU thing, I think it has been a good thing. But like you said, it does hurt high school. So some people are very questioning, like, high school players of wanting joining, like, HBCUs, or I'm just going to use schools in general, to the fact of, like, so you got to sit. I might have to sit a year or two because you just brought in a portal kid that more than likely is going to play. And now I'm back up to that. So you as a high school student might, if anything, might have to prepare for that. Are you ready to pretty much be sitting on the bench for majority of your freshman year, maybe possibly your sophomore year of that? And maybe you might play out of that portal kid, but that's kind of the risk, unfortunately, the high school people would deal with. And then sometimes just a portal kid, just because you came from the portal and you had playing time does not mean it's guaranteed either that you will play. So it's all that kind of comes. That's all of that deals with that portal.
All of those things, and some of those things aren't talked about as much, like going in the portal and never coming out. That is a reality. There's only so many positions available, only so many schools you can go to. So going in the portal and not coming out is a reality. Going in the portal and having to go down a level is also a reality that isn't talked about enough with athletes. I have seen some of the HBCUs get some great pickups, kids who went to Division I PWIs and decided, I want to go closer to home. I want my school life to feel more like family, which for African-American kids is going to be, or any kid of color is going to be at those HBCUs. But you said something else. HBCU kids going into the portal and going over to a PWI just isn't happening as often as people might think. HBCUs tend to be some of the lower of the Division I schools, so some of the kids that qualify for HBCUs or that at that talent level are there because you didn't fit the look. You weren't 6'5", you weren't 6'2", lefty in volleyball. You maybe ran a little slower in track. You're a shorter point guard, you know what I mean? So you're big that can't shoot. You can just play around the glass. Well, you're going to go to HBCU because a big at a Power 5 can shoot it. So most of the athletes, in some cases, you didn't necessarily have the talent that they were looking for or the size at those big levels. So deciding to leave HBCUs, which are mostly the lower level Division I's, leaves you with ultimately no Division I opportunity. So those are all things to take into consideration, and truly feel bad for high school kids that this is a reality for them. I myself am kind of hoping that once everyone runs out of those COVID years, elite high school kids get an opportunity to go Division I. People have been working their whole life for it. But we've certainly seen a shift, and everyone will have to adjust. So, Megan, that's all I have for you today. I've taken up so much of your time. Can you leave athletes with any advice on their recruiting journey? If you could sum it up, you can leave them a word of advice for their recruiting journey, and that's all I'll need from you today.
So for me, take your time. Take your time. Ask all the questions that you need. This is hopefully, like I said, is a 4-year commitment that you're making to a university. Take your time. You shouldn't feel pressured to make decisions, even though, yes, I will say coaches are there, and it's understandable as wise too. People are trying to get rosters filled. People are trying to get their team ready and get it focused for the new season, so it makes sense of that. But take your time. Really do your research. Like you said, go talk to the former players, current players. Really understand, what do you want out of a university? It can be the smallest things. I make a little joke with people, and I told them that I didn't want to go to no school that I had to live in a community bathroom. It might seem funny to all, but that was a standard. Stick with it. Whatever your standards are, stick with it. Don't just try to follow anything just for a scholarship. But yes, having standards too means that it might end up being a Division II school instead of a Division I or Division III due to those standards that you might have. But if that's truly what you want, if you know that truly is going to make you happy at the end of your 4 years, then stick to them. So one, please have your standards. Know what you want out of college in your first 4 years. If you don't know, then hopefully you know what type of environment that you would like to be a part of to grow you as a woman. So that's what I can leave you with is truly take your time in the recruiting process and know what you really want out of college for 4 years.
Well, there it is. She has spoken, and she certainly would know, as she's been coaching and is a former athlete. Well, Coach Coleman, thank you so much for your time. Good luck when you guys play again. I know Morgan State is dealing with some challenges right now. So good luck. We're wishing you well on your coaching journey as well.
Thank you, and thank you so much for inviting me to do this podcast again.
Absolutely.